Can hijabis teach English abroad? That is a very good question. Being a hijab is not always easy, especially in today's climate. There are a lot of political things that are shrouded around the hijab, and like a lot of countries see wearing a headscarf as a political statement, not just your freedom of expression. So that could be sometimes tricky, and it's very different from home where I'm from in the United States, where, you know, theoretically and the law kind of backs you in this, like you're not supposed to discriminate on the person's based on the person's religion or how the person looks, but that's not the case, sadly, in many countries. So I'm going to tell you the pros and cons of my experiences, I'll say, teaching abroad. Let's start with the good. So the good from teaching abroad: I gained a lot of cultural connection. Teaching abroad was like a blessing for me because I got to achieve most of my goals, and also I feel like I got to meet many people that had like misconstrued ideas of what a Muslim should look like and where a Muslim should be. So I've probably mentioned this so many times, but like in Spain, whenever they see someone that has a Muslim name, or like whenever they hear that you have a Muslim name, or you see someone with a headscarf or anything that symbolizes like Islam, they just automatically assume you're from North Africa or you're Moroccan, and which was not the case. So like a lot of people were very shocked to learn that I was also American, and yeah, so that was kind of a learning process. The funny thing is, like, for example, like one of the schools I taught, the kids would be like, oh my gosh, like your name is Karima. Karima, I have like my neighbor from Morocco, his name is Karima too. Or like some Moroccan kids will be very excited to like look at me like standing in there teaching, and then they'll tell me, or some of them will whisper to me, oh, my cousin's name is Karima, or my mom's name is Karima, and like she's from Morocco, and are you Moroccan too? So yeah, so that's the kind of fun experiences I had. So I think it was a very great awakening for like the Spanish citizens to learn more about the American people, and just know that it's not just one type of race or one group of people. I also made friendships that I never imagined I would have. I got to teach like directors in like the finance industry, and I have to tell you, in Spain it's not very common to see like a hijab wearing person like in the workforce. It's actually very hard. So like I think like I had a very unique opportunity in that aspect, and so like, you know, teaching English opened the doors in that regard, and I got to learn a bit about the Spanish world, and they got to learn a bit about my world and all the identities I hold. And now the not so good. So a lot of people do not mention this, but like teaching English, as simple job as teaching English, most times involves a lot of politics. So like, just like any other job actually, like there's a lot of politics that happen here. So like the bad is like many schools, they already have their image of what an English teacher should look like, and usually it involves someone from the Caucasian race, blonde, blue eyes, and whatever. And so like if you're of African ethnicity or background, or Asian background, or people sometimes doubt you, like they're like, you cannot be from these 7 countries that I mentioned. So like it might be harder to like find jobs. So like maybe if you're like, you know, Caucasian or white or whatever, you finding an English teaching job will be an easy breeze. Whereas if you're of the other ethnicities, like I mentioned, it might be a little bit challenging. And to add to that, if you're a hijab wearing person, it could be also more challenging as well. And so that is some of the not so good parts of teaching English. So like you have to usually always kind of work harder or like apply to more places than your fellow citizen or English speaking co-worker or counterpart. Another thing that is not so good part of teaching English is like, you know, your accents. Like a lot of countries, they really sought after the American accent. Like when I say American, the United States, like North American accent. So there could be some discrimination that goes on about, like, you know, if you have an Australian accent, they still want you, but like, you know, there's an ideal of what they want. But anyway, every school is different. But the North American accent, the United States accent, is what's sought after by like parents, teachers, and businesses and or companies. So like country of origin, like I mentioned, if you're not from the 7 countries, although there are programs that allow you to teach English in these countries, it's usually a bit harder to find jobs. So you have to, it's not impossible, but it's just a lot more work. Whereas it might take another person a day to find a job and like get hired and like start teaching the next day, it might take you a month or so. So what is my experience as teaching as a hijabi? I've had my good and bad times. Like, so the good is that, you know, I got to teach, you know, even if I wasn't teaching at a point, I was always starting to have a job. But the bad is like it took me longer to find something. So like there were times like, so like a lot of people do not know this, like my first job when I first taught English, it didn't end well because people were a little bit, they were actually discriminatory, and I think it was because of my religion, and like they felt I was demanding some things that they thought they were accommodating me more than I should have asked. And so like anyway, we did not work out well, and so I had to like, I was kind of stranded and I had to look for another job, and it took me a month to find something. And then I'll hear my other American friends, like, you know, maybe in similar situations, and they found a job, or maybe they didn't work out well their schools and they found a job like the next day. The moment they applied, they have found like got a response next day. Oh, something I didn't mention, like in many of these countries that are not in the United States or not in UK, I don't know about other European countries, but in Spain and like, you know, many parts of Asia and Middle East, your resume includes your picture. So like they already know how you look like, and you know, in the United States that is kind of like a discrimination. So like you know, the recruiters are not supposed to see how you are, to not have a bias on the hiring process. But in these countries, like they already know how you look. And like, truth be told, like in Asian countries, so bad that some people whiten themselves just to look like the perfect image, have the perfect image of what an English teacher should look like. It's kind of sad, but this is the reality that a lot of people do not talk about. So yeah, so like I said, it's very hard. In Spain, it's good because, you know, the demand for teaching English is high, so you always find something in Spain. But I said it was hard. At one point in my life, while I was in Spain, I applied to teach English in Asia, and that was incredibly difficult, like especially in Korea. It was horrible actually. I applied to the EPIC program, and I wasn't accepted for God knows what, and then I decided to go through the route of the private school called Hagwons in Korea, and the private schools are worse than the public schools. So like, you know, the public schools are more accepting, but you still can never tell if they will accept you or not, or they'll hire you or not. But the private schools, like, they really rely on the opinions of the parents. So like, if the parents already have an image of what they want their child to learn, who they want their child to learn from, and how the person should look, the teachers, whether they like it, you know, the rule or not, they're just gonna follow suit of the parents because the parents are the ones paying. So like, usually these parents in Asia, in Far East Asia, they want like, you know, that like, you know, Caucasian looking person, and so like you might not fit that perfect description of what they want. So like usually they wouldn't respond to you, or they like, the recruiters would like, you know, just ignore you, or after they interview you and they see how you look, they might not you know, might not follow through. So like in these countries, like, yeah, it could be hard, but nothing is impossible. Like, there's always a way in every difficult situation. So yeah, so what do you do if like you are a Muslim girl, or, you know, a person of color, and you really want to teach English and you want to fulfill some of your dreams through teaching English? Like I said, nothing is impossible, but it will be harder. So the question goes back to, can you teach English abroad as a hijabi? Yes, you can, but it's just gonna be a bit harder, okay? So, or should I say more challenging? So my tips for you to take away: have all your documents ready. Like, so you don't want to give them an excuse of why they shouldn't hire you. Having a TEFL is so important. You know, it kind of shows that you have experience of teaching. So I advise you to have the TEFL, so that, you know, like I mentioned, they don't have a reason not to hire you. Like, you know, they know that you're the deal. Of course, be from one of the 7 countries I mentioned. If you're not, you know, have the other documents I mentioned. Have any more questions for me? Send me messages on my Instagram, Facebook, on my blog, or just email me at contact@hijabywebtrial.com, and I'll love to answer your questions. If you want to know more about International TEFL Academy and like some of the discounts they have and like any other questions, just email me. Well, that's all I have for now, folks. Thank you for watching. See you soon. Hasta luego. Bye.